College football playoff round one is in the books, and we got to talk about everything surrounding it because there is going to be a massive overreaction because this is the hardest championship to ever win. People are going to wonder who belonged, who didn't, and I got to give you my quarterfinal picks. We are going to reseed, go through every game, and then talk about why Lane Kiffin's Twitter is why he will never win a national championship. That and everything else here on the Unafraid Show. Let's get to it. Before we get started, you guys make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications, and tell a friend about the Unafraid Show because we love college football and we know that you do too. So share it with somebody who loves it as much as you do. All right, now on to the playoffs though. So overreactions are coming. And truthfully, they already started. They started on Friday night with that Indiana Notre Dame game. Here is where people are completely wrong about all of the tweets. Oh, Alabama should have been in and Indiana didn't belong, all those things. Because this is such a small sample size and people already think that they know the answers to the test. This is like when you see a team get down 14-0 in the first 3 minutes of the game and you're like, oh, the game's over. But then they turn out and win 38-17 and you're like, oh, wow, damn, that changed. Because they had to settle down, they had to settle in and everything doesn't happen the way it's supposed to in the first iteration. And they'll tell you there aren't 12 teams that are even good enough. Let's actually go back to 4, go back to 8. Nope, wrong answer again, people. Because this is a long-term, short-term play. This is a play about more access because the more access that is granted to the college football playoff, then it will take care of itself. In business, you would call it like a market correction, that the market will correct to whatever the price is or whatever should actually be. Let me give you a prime example. Let's look at Kenny Dillingham over at Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham doesn't have to do what a lot of other coaches felt that they had to do for a long time, which was, oh, I got to take this job here because I can get resources, win a national championship here. I can't recruit here because this team can't win. No, Kenny Dillingham doesn't have to leave Arizona State to make the college football playoff and potentially win a national championship. Now, you might be saying, oh, he doesn't have the roster to win it now. Nah, he probably doesn't. But it is going to be a lot easier to recruit top talent and sell them on the fact that the future is brighter than the past. That if you come here and you become a legend here, we can win a national championship here with you. So that's the difference. Because look at the world of college basketball. You know, it took decades upon decades for a 16 to beat a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. And now, since it happened once, it happened twice within like 5 or 6 years. And you have 15s beating 2s regularly now. Nobody is safe. And the same thing is going to happen in the college football playoff. You are going to have upsets year 3, year 4, year 5. Now, granted, the top seeds are going to advance the majority of the time, just like the NCAA tournament. But you are going to get some shockers at some point in time because the market will correct itself. With NIL, the transfer portal, rosters will continuously get diluted a little bit. Yes, there will be some upper tier teams, but the Arizona States, they'll be back. The BYUs potentially. You see they just got the #1 recruit in the whole country in basketball. You don't think they paying money in football too? So the rosters are going to be more spread out. That means that the results and that teams are going to be more even. That means the results are going to vary more. That means some of your big logo teams are going to catch some L's. But all of this retraction and all of this, oh man, Alabama should have been in and so Ole Miss and all. No, that wasn't the answer. Those teams weren't good enough to be in and we knew it. But wasn't this regular season so much better? It was so much better because not only did you have 4 teams that could make the playoff, every game mattered as the season went on. It didn't matter whether the game felt insignificant or not. It was not insignificant. And this is why I say the market will correct itself when it comes to the college football playoff. And when I watched those games on Saturday, well, on Friday night and then Saturday, I didn't care about the blowouts. I could not. I was like a kid on Christmas. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was like, 4 more sleeps, 3 more sleeps, 2 more sleeps until the college football playoff. I was literally like my kids. It was Christmas for me. And so I didn't care about the blowouts. I was happy and excited to see how all of this was going to play out because it was unfamiliar territory. And I didn't turn any of these games off. Now, there was a point in time in the Penn State SMU game that I double boxed that joint with the Kansas City Houston game in the NFL. Had to double box that joint because I couldn't just watch that one. But it didn't go off at all because, of course, I got to analyze the game. Went back and rewatched them already to make sure I was prepared for you guys here on the Unafraid Show. So, and the next thing that I want to point out is that the home teams did really well. So I was in love with the home teams getting, these home playoff games. The crowds were even more electric than usual. You had Tennessee buying, up to 40,000, depending on what you believe, seats in the shoe. This was great. This was great theater. Now, the games weren't necessarily great theater, but the atmosphere, the environment, and you could feel the potential. You can feel it. And yes, it will work out. Give it year 3, year 4, year 5. You are going to see different results in terms of the competitiveness of these games. And after the Indiana Notre Dame game, people got to talking that same old Alabama in the playoffs, Ole Miss, South Carolina. See, they didn't belong. The top 25 wins and all that. Stop complaining. Don't lose. Don't lose to bad teams. Like, it would be different if we were just counting teams losing to ranked teams and, college football playoff teams. That would be different. But these teams, Alabama, they lost to Oklahoma, who's bad this year. They lost to Vanderbilt, who's 6-6 as well. You don't get any sympathy for that. And before people get to talking about, now this is the one thing that I want to tell you. Before people start talking about how much Indiana sucks and how much if Boise gets blown out, if they suck, or any of the results this weekend. Oh, they suck. This team is terrible. Had no business being there. Remember that all of these teams have been blown out by 17 plus points in the college football playoff. Florida State, blown out by my Oregon Ducks. Just absolutely killed. Oklahoma has been blown out. Ohio State got bageled in a game. Didn't score a single solitary point in a college football playoff game. Alabama has been trashed. Notre Dame has been held underwater. Clemson has been put in a chokehold. The Dirty Dogs of Washington have been slaughtered. Michigan has been beat up. Michigan State. And now you add Tennessee and SMU to the list. And I didn't even want to bring up Cincinnati because that was one of them they don't belong teams. But that's just the reality of the college football playoff. And a lot of that was before rosters got spread out, but even the big names get blown out. And I think that people forget that. It is easy to pick on the Indianas. It's easy to pick on SMU. Easy to pick on them. That's low-hanging fruit until you realize the history of the college football playoff. It's been 35 total games since we've had a playoff. 23, 24 of them have been absolute blowouts. That's just the reality of it. But now, that's where I said the market will correct itself. As there's more access. Told you about 16 ones. This is exactly the way it's going to work. Now, I will say, though, we do, and I will reiterate this before we get to the games, we do need a college football commissioner to fix these schedules because uniform scheduling is an absolute most. But until the powers that be agree to stop hoarding and acting like crabs in a bucket, this is the model that we are going to have for scheduling. And we keep throwing Band-Aids on it. Oh, and as conferences continue to expand, you have less teams that can play each other during conference play. So now people are going to win the scheduling roulette. Texas won the scheduling roulette in the SEC. Indiana won it in the Big Ten. And so, yes, those teams are going to maybe artificially get inflated in terms of their rankings, but that's just the reality of it until the powers that be decide, that we're not going to be scared. We're not going to hoard our power. We're actually going to do what's best for college football. Same number of conference games and non-conference games that are competitively scheduled. But even in that, you're still not going to be able to control what happened with Florida State this year. You're not going to be able to control what happened with Michigan this year, or NC State, or USC, with any of those teams being so bad this year. You're not going to be able to control it. But you can try to do a much better job. But now let's get to the games. Oh, the games. Oh, I was so excited. I was so excited on Friday. I was doing my last episode on the nightcap on Sirius XM. And I was watching that Notre Dame Indiana game. 27-17. Indiana Notre Dame 27-17. When I was watching this game, first of all, this game was nowhere as close as it was. Like, it was nowhere as close as it was. That was not a 10-point victory. Now, I actually have to criticize Indiana's head coach, Curt Cinggetti, just a little bit. This was the second time, and yes, I get it. This is his first time on the big stage as a head coach. However, this team came out deer in headlights for the second time in a row. They were deer in headlights against Ohio State. Then they showed up against Notre Dame and was deer in headlights again. And I know that Notre Dame's defense is really good. They made it extremely tough on Indiana. But the level of playing conservative football, that Indiana is aggressive. He plays like Dan Campbell for the Lions, going for it on fourth down, being aggressive, pushing the ball downfield. He did not do that. He pulled what people think that Ryan Day or James Franklin do when they get in big games. That's exactly what Curt Cinggetti did. He got more conservative. He tried to play it safe. And then with 10 minutes to go in the game, they're down by 3 scores. He punts the football in Notre Dame's territory. Yes, it was going to be 4th and 10 or 11, but what's your option? He punted the football, waved the white flag. And that sends a message to your team. And this is one of those times where I promise you, because Curt Cinggetti's a proud coach and a very, very good coach, he is going to go back to the drawing board and say, you know what? I got to do something a little bit different. And he is going to put his team in a much better position to win. And but he got to stop getting out there talking like he was talking. Talking about, we beat the shit out of people. And hey, listen, if you're going to come out with all that tough talk, you cannot get beat up like you got beat up. That's the truth. And a lot of it started with his quarterback, Curtis Rourke, who finished 20 for 33 for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was a dude who was overthrowing the ball early, throwing the ball out of bounds. He had a freak out game in the beginning, but the fourth quarter, all of a sudden he starts hitting passes and all of that. It was too little, too late at that point in time. And this is why experience on the big stage matters. And this was Indiana's first experience. Now, whether they're back next year or the year after next, because they're going to have to reload this roster because all them James Madison transfers are going to be gone. Either way, they will be back playing more high-profile games in the near future, which means they'll be able to sell it to recruits better. Then you got Notre Dame. Riley Leonard, their quarterback. And I've said, because he was 23 for 32 for 201 yards. This is a guy who is, I hate the term game manager because they use it as a slur, because the best quarterbacks in the world, the elite quarterbacks, are game managers. But sometimes I think that what the statement is supposed to mean is that the guy is limited to game managing. Now, Riley Leonard will make some plays with his feet, but he's not a superhero. He's not a guy you can put the game on his back. But Notre Dame hasn't needed to do that. And Indiana's defense actually did a pretty good job for the most part of stopping Notre Dame's run, because Jeremiah Love had that 98-yard touchdown in the first quarter, which just absolutely exploded everything. And he finished the game with 8 carries for 109 yards. So if you take that 98-yard run out, Indiana rushed the ball 34 times for 95 yards? That's not that much. It's really not. So we can't sit there and act like that Indiana just absolutely got beat up. They got beat up offensively. Defense, their defense actually was not terrible. Not even a little bit outside of that 98-yard touchdown. So they deserve some credit. But we'll get to what's in store for Notre Dame in just a little bit. All right, now let's move on to the next game that we have. We have Penn State versus SMU, 38-10. This was another game, quarterback play. This game was over, absolutely over on SMU's first drive. It was over. Their quarterback, Kevin Jennings, came out, dime, running the offense. They were running hurry up. They were doing everything that you normally see SMU do. And then on 4th down and 1, they called a perfect play, called a bootleg, and he had 2 options. Number 1, he could have run for the first down, which he would have got, or he could have thrown the ball to the tight end, which he did for a touchdown. Only problem is, instead of the ball being on this side of the tight end, ball was on this side of the tight end, so it made it a hard catch. Ball gets bobbled. Penn State defender comes, boop, pop out. And that destroyed Kevin Jennings' confidence for the rest of the day. After that, the next 2 drives, he threw pick sixes. Just bad throws. And part of it was because SMU's offensive line, particularly their left tackle, was getting he had pressure in his face. But even when he didn't have pressure in his face, it was Sam Darnold, I'm seeing ghosts. Both pick sixes should not have been thrown. They were just horrendous passes. And I'm not trying to dump on the kid, because kids, even professionals have bad games. But the reality is the dude had a bad game in the biggest moment. And remember, I told you, SMU had the same problem when they played against Clemson. Same thing happened to Indiana. When you're not used to the bright lights, SMU hadn't played games all year until the ACC championship where people had been looking at them and saying, oh my gosh, we are going to, that we believe, right? That we believe that this team is so excellent. And Penn State, dude, they did their thing. They did exactly what they wanted to do. They kept the pressure off of their quarterback, Drew Aller. They didn't make him be in a position where he had to go be a superhero. They just let him be him, which is the best thing that they could ask for. Just let him be a game manager, not let him have to be special. But this SMU defense, they deserve a lot of credit, because despite the fact that their quarterback was being a saboteur in the game, their defense held Penn State largely in check until the end of the game. They were able to get stops. They were able to create turnovers. They did exactly what you wanted out of their team. They got an interception. So they did what they were supposed to do. They gave you a chance. And if SMU goes up 7-0 and then gets those first couple stops, they might go up 10-0, 14-0, and then 17-7. Now you got a whole different ball game. But I do want to remember I told you, Penn State's offensive coordinator, Andy Koltnicki, a lot of credit. He has been creative. He has been solid. And that's without great play from their wide receiver and quarterback, because they only threw for 127 yards this game. SMU did a very good job. Now, granted, on some of the third and longs, they allowed a little too much, but this is a team that Penn State is really good. They didn't let Tyler Warren beat them. They didn't just get run all over. I actually was more impressed with SMU after this game and their long-term prognosis for them, Rhett Lashley, and everybody else than I was going into the game even. And I liked SMU because I watched them play probably more than other people did. But there it is. Next game up, we have Texas versus Clemson. This was a 38-14 game. Clemson had every single opportunity to make this game a game. Every single opportunity. But they couldn't do one particular thing that was very crucial to winning this football game. And that was stop the run on any level. They were just getting gashed. They got gashed on every single level. This was a one-sided affair. Clemson's defense, yes, they got a couple of stops, but they gave up 49 carries for 292 yards. That's 6.1 yards a carry. Quinn Ewers just got to just sit back there and ding, 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 ding. Easy throw, screen. And then when he had to make a hard throw, one of them he gave to Clemson. Gave it to him. I mean, it's just the reality of the situation. If Clemson could have stopped the run, their quarterback, who has been much maligned, who's had a glow up this season, Cade Klubnik, would have had a chance to win. He finished 26 for 43 for 336 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. But this Clemson team showed us exactly why they were 10-3 coming into this game. They had flaws. And even Texas coming into this game, they showed why they were 12-2. Only 2 teams they lost to were Georgia. So they're going to beat the middle of the road teams. It's exactly what they did. So good job, Texas. And this was actually a decent showing by Clemson. They lost by, 14 points. It was competitive in the fourth quarter. What more can we ask for in a playoff game? I'm just saying. Next game up, Ohio State versus Tennessee. Oh, this was the shut 'em up game. Oh, everybody. Hey. Enough for all the JV games earlier. Here's the varsity game. We got the SEC coming on in here. And you know what they're not going to do? The SEC is going to show out and perform. Hell, I even picked Tennessee to beat Ohio State. Man, Ohio State came out 42-17 and just whap, just smacked the hell out of Tennessee. At no point in time was this game competitive. This was 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. It was 21-10 at halftime, and Tennessee got the ball. So, yes, Tennessee, if they could have went out and scored, I tweeted, they could have went out and scored, they would have had every single opportunity to win the football game. However, this is where the tweet that I sent out, that I read to you guys earlier, this is where it rang so true. And all of a sudden, people, they're liking and favoring it now even more. Where I said, before you get all excited, and say this team doesn't belong, remember, Florida State, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Washington, Michigan State, all have been blown out in the college football playoff. All of those teams have been blown out. So don't overreact to this one thing. And now all of a sudden, Tennessee and SEC fans, you're right, George. But I tweeted that after the Indiana game and Notre Dame game, and then retweeted it after the SMU game. But they didn't want to hear nothing about it then. Oh, they didn't want to hear nothing about it. That Tennessee defense that doesn't give up over 20 points and only did twice all year, they got tuned up to the tune of 42 points. And truthfully, it could have been more. With like 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, Ohio State put in their second string quarterback. And with 6 or 7 minutes to go, they put in their third string quarterback. They put in their third string players. They were not afraid of Tennessee coming back or nothing at all. They were like, yeah. Let's save our legs and make sure nobody gets hurt for the next game. Man. But I do want to point out something with Ryan Day. This dude was all smiles at the end of the first quarter. Oh, and then in the second quarter, all smiles, giggling, chuckling, kikiing on the sideline. And then when it was 21-10, he was like, uh-oh. You could start feeling that panic going in his voice. in his body. Then third quarter, stretch out the lead a little bit. Fourth quarter, he's all smiles and chuckle again. All right, come on, Ryan Day. I know. I saw the tension in your body, man. We all saw it. But Chip Kelly deserves a lot of credit. Instead of coming out trying to show that they're physically dominant, he was like, we're going to come out and get the ball to our best players, Emeka Egbuka, and we're going to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith, deep, short, wherever. We're going to get him the football. And Will Howard played pretty well. And this was a game Tennessee could get no pressure. They couldn't get anywhere near Will Howard. Good job, Ohio State. You won the prize that you've been wanting to win. A date with the Ducks. And it is so beautiful that it just so happens to be the Big Ten, Pac-12 typical matchup. Big Ten, Pac-12 in the Rose Bowl. Oh, yeah, buddy, you got what you asked for. Be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. But now I want to move on to my quarterfinal picks because the games are set. You got Penn State. Let me say that again. That moment reminded me when I've been on my radio show, the Unafraid show on Sirius. The nightcap on Sirius on Mad Dog, where I pronounced my own name wrong. So that was one of the moments. It made me laugh. So we got the quarterfinal picks. Penn State versus Boise State on December 31st in the Fiesta Bowl. Now, I am standing on business in this pick. I picked Penn State, still got Penn State winning that football game. And on Tuesday, we will get further and deeper into these picks. We got Arizona State versus Texas in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Actually, you know what? Y'all got to come back on Tuesday. I ain't giving you all my picks right now. You got to come back to the Unafraid Show. So make sure that you guys like, subscribe, get notifications, and tell a friend about the Unafraid Show. And hop in them comments, man. Get down there. Get down there. I'll give you a second. Hop in the comments. There you go. Ohio State versus Oregon in the Rose Bowl. So exciting. And you got Notre Dame versus Georgia in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. All three of those games are on the first. So exciting. But I thought it would be appropriate that we reseed the college football playoff because there are only 8 teams left, down from 12. And based upon what we saw coming into the playoff versus what we've seen now, I'm re-ranking these boys. I'm re-ranking them. Number 1, I got the Oregon Ducks. Number 2, got Ohio State because they took the Tennessee behind the woodshed, boy. Number 3, I got Notre Dame. Number 4, I have Penn State. Number 5, I have Georgia. Number 6, Texas. Number 7, Arizona State. And number 8, Boise State. Those are my rankings at this point in time. You guys can leave your rankings of the top 8 that are remaining in the comments right now. Tell me where you stand or where you agree or disagree. The final thing that we have to talk about today is Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, he needs to take a lesson from the head coach, Herm Edwards. Lane Kiffin needs to take a lesson from Herm Edwards. Don't press send, Lane. Stop your damn tweeting. And Lane Kiffin's tweets are exactly, and his press conferences are exactly why Lane Kiffin will not win a national championship until he fixes this. This is the same thing that I have said about James Harden. Why no matter where he's been, no chance to win a championship because he does some things that are unchampionship like. Same thing with Dwight Howard when he was in Orlando. Couldn't win because he was doing things that were anti-winning. LeBron James, when he first got down to Miami, LeBron, D-Wade, Bosh, all of them. I remember they were playing the Atlanta Hawks that first year in the playoffs. They were laughing, joking on the sideline, high-fiving, falling on the ground, everything. And then when it came to go play Boston, it's all business now. Nah, bro, keep that same energy. If that's how you gonna be, then be that against the good teams too. But this is Lane Kiffin's Twitter and his press conference, complaining about everything. Do you think that Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, that these dudes are out there in front of their team complaining about everything? They didn't let us in. This is too hard. Do we even want to play in the SEC championship? The transfer portal, even though I'm bringing in the most transfers and the number one transfer class. Stop your damn crying, Lane. You got to be better than this, man. I think you are a really smart coach. Think that you are hilarious. I think a lot of positive things about you, but this, Lane, is unbecoming. This makes people just want you to lose, and it also infects your team. This is completely the wrong thing to do, Lane. You are losing. You are lost in the sauce. You didn't make it to the college football playoff because you lost to Kentucky. That's why you didn't make it to the playoff. You didn't make it to the playoff because you lost to Florida. Come on, man. What are we talking about here? It is not anybody else's fault but yours and your team's. And then he tweets out, way to keep us on the edge of our seats, committee. Riveting after the Ohio State and Indiana. After the Indiana, Notre Dame, and the SMU Penn State game. Then really exciting competitive game, college football playoff. Great job. And then Tennessee goes and gets absolute smoked by Ohio State. And he couldn't be found on Twitter then. Where your tweets at now, Lane? Come on, man. You're better than this. You have to be better than this. You are a college football coach. You got to be more concerned with getting your team ready and getting right than freaking tweeting. And there's nothing wrong with tweeting, Lane, but stop the complaining. You make $10 million. Nobody wants to hear you complaining. You are supposed to be the guy with the answers. Be an answer person, not a problem person. And that's the end of the Unafraid Show. Y'all make sure y'all tell a friend about the Unafraid Show. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Peace out and come back on Tuesday.